Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Robuilt, but more importantly, welcome to Casa Mariposa, my 800 square foot small home in Joshua Tree, California. That only took 20 times. This is actually my second construction in Joshua Tree, California. The first construction was actually a 400 square foot tiny home about 3 minutes down the road. That's actually 2.0 of the tiny house that I built in my backyard in Los Angeles, California, which I did a video back at the beginning of 2020. I'm gonna go ahead and link that up here so that you can watch that after this video. For today's video, we're gonna be focusing on Casa Mariposa. Now you might be wondering why I call this place Casa Mariposa, and that's because it translates to butterfly house. When I designed this house, I designed it with what's called the butterfly roof, also known as a checkmark roof. There are several other names for this roofing type, but to be honest, none of them really translate in Spanish quite as beautifully as Casa Mariposa. Let's get into the specifics about this house. My business partner and I closed on this land roughly a year ago. It took us about 3 or 4 months to get this house permitted. Now a lot of that was bottlenecked by actually getting plans, getting engineering plans, percolation tests, soils reports, and all that jazz. But the permitting process for the most part took about 3 or 4 months. And we actually broke ground. Motorcycle. Wow, how many motorcycles are there? Good Lord. We actually broke ground on this house in February and we're in mid-June now, so it's been about 5.5 months, which is actually ridiculously fast progress on a house this size. 5.5 months and we're almost done with this thing. From a construction standpoint, this house all in is gonna cost about $243,000. The land itself actually cost us about $18,000, down from the original list price of $28,000. And then when you factor in permitting, engineering, drafting, all that jazz, all in this house is gonna cost us about $275,000, leaving us with a mortgage of $1,800 a month. The way we're paying for this is actually through a construction loan. We paid for the land, the engineering, the permitting, the drafting, all on our own. And the bank themselves are paying us the $243,000 to execute the build. And then at the very end, we're gonna refinance everything, take that $30,000 that we put in on the front end, combine it with the $243,000, and that's how we end up with our $275,000 mortgage with an $1,800 monthly note. So back here, we've got our carport. Funny thing about this carport, it's 400 square feet. The house itself is about 800 square feet to 880 if you consider the full space. But from a conditioned space standpoint, the house is 800 square feet. So just basic math is gonna tell you that this carport is about half the size of the house. We did that intentionally because this house is meant to be an Airbnb and it was gonna be housing 6 to 8 people at a time, meaning that there would always be at least 2 cars here at every given moment. So we built it big enough to fit 2 cars, tried to ignore the massive pile of construction debris. That will be cleaned up at the very end of the build, but there's a lot of space back here and we're actually gonna be building a sloped pergola that matches the slope of the house so that there's a really big outdoor space for our guests to hang out in. Another really big reason that we made this area super massive is because we wanted this to serve as an outdoor space too. At certain points of the day, the pergola will have sun kind of going through the beams and it gets really hot and it gets super sunny in Joshua Tree, so it would be kind of uncomfortable to sit there. So people could always choose to park their cars outside on the driveway, outside of the carport, and hang in this fully shaded area because it's so much nicer under here. We also have recessed lighting if people want to hang out here at night. I know you're ready to go inside and I'm ready to go inside because I have shot at least 100 takes and so all the neighbors here must think that I'm super crazy. So let's go take a look. Actually, before we go inside, will you do me a favor and hit the like button and the subscribe button? It would really mean the world to me and it would help me out with the YouTube algorithm as I grow my channel. Plus, it'll hook you up with more small and tiny house content from me. Apologies in advance if the sound is super echoey. I can't really do anything about that because there's literally no furniture in here at all to soak up the sound. So it's just bouncing around on all the walls and the tile floors. But the first thing that you'll notice besides that is that the place is completely flush with natural light. For me, one of the most important features that a house can have is natural lighting. Now, of course, we do have recessed lighting and a chandelier and we're gonna use that at night, but during the day, you just can't beat daylight. I mean, look how beautiful this is. There's so much light in here. To me, the windows and even the door has lighting. I mean, everything about this room is all focused on this window centerpiece. We have Celestria windows up here, windows on both sides, and even the side entry door has a window in it. Now, granted, I am gonna be spending a lot of money on blinds and curtains, but even past the expense of the blinds and curtains, I spent a lot of money on windows. I mean, if you include all the windows and these 2 doors right here, I spent roughly $10,000 on windows and doors, which is a lot of money. But I think that it's totally worth it because now the space feels like 1,200 square feet and not 800 square feet. All right, there's a lot of boxes right here, ignore these, but this is gonna be kind of the main living area right here. We actually had a fireplace set for this little area right here, but given that this was gonna be an Airbnb, fires are a really big hazard. We were gonna have to supply firewood to our guests. It just kind of seemed like a headache that we didn't want to deal with. And I don't think I've said this yet, but this house is a 2-2, meaning it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And although this place is only 800 square feet, that doesn't mean that it can't be all about the details. I mean, for me, I really thought about every aspect of this, from the Celestri windows up here, which I'm pretty sure that's how you say that word, to the chevron wood plank flooring. Stepping into the kitchen, this might seem small to some people. I'm from Texas. To Texas standards, I guess maybe it is a little small, or anywhere that's not California, this could seem like maybe not a very spacious kitchen, but considering it's California, I actually think that it's pretty enormous. I mean, we've got a 10-foot island right here. We are gonna have a giant pantry right here, nice beautiful Calcutta countertops. We'll have floating shelves and a vent hood right here. And then we're gonna top it all off with a beautiful sand-colored Smeg refrigerator over there. Now the cabinets themselves are a high gloss Voxtorp cabinet in a sand color as well. And I'm really excited to finish this build and for other people to see it because I think you're gonna be able to see how all out we went for that high-end modern desert aesthetic. Now the bedrooms are where it gets a little tight, but I promise we do make it up to guests in one really awesome way. From the bedrooms themselves, you're gonna have these sweeping views of the rock formations and mountains right behind you. Like I said, it is a little tight in here, but it's really not that bad. I mean, you can definitely fit a full size or a queen size in here, 2 bedside tables and other furniture too. And at the end of the day, I think that the view you get from what's called Coyote Hole is super special, and I think it's kind of hard to get in this town because this town is it's got so many topographies, it's so hilly, you're not always necessarily guaranteed a view here. Now that is the smaller of the 2 bedrooms. Now we get into the master bedroom, which is much more spacious. First glance, I think it's pretty immediately notable that this room is definitely more spacious. We could probably get a king on that side going that way, but even here, full queen all day, bedside table, closet over there. And we still wanted to capitalize on this epic view of Coyote Hole. So I mean, no matter what room you're in, you are set up with such a nice view that's gonna be really relaxing in the mornings as you drink your coffee. One other thing that makes this place seem so much bigger than it is are the raked roofs. These are really high compared to normal ceilings. I mean, your typical ceiling line is gonna be at about 96 inches or 8 feet. This is actually anywhere from 10 to 12 depending on what part of the house you are. And I wanted to quickly say that one of the reasons that we spent so much money on windows is because we got casement windows on a lot of the ones in the front and in the bedrooms, meaning that there will be a crank here and you can actually crank your windows and they will open that way. That little feature, very expensive. You could do a slider or the kind that open up and down. I don't know what that's called. The up and down types of windows. Again, we splurged on the windows because we wanted people to use them. It gets super hot in Joshua Tree and sometimes all you need to do is open a window to get that nice breeze in here. We spent a lot of money on this bathroom as well, and most of those costs actually come from the tile themselves. So we got the tile from a really fancy place called Clee Tile. It's 200 bucks to even ship it. And the actual tile itself is $15 a square foot. Now we're in California and we're in the desert, right? And that's obviously the aesthetic we're going for. So for me, I kind of wanted to go with this vintage California style using muted pinks and muted greens. And I think that they pair really excellently. Now, while the bathroom finish outs are really stunning, there are some flaws here, and this is perhaps the biggest flaw in the entire house. Because it's such a small bathroom, the sink is gonna actually go right here, but there's a wall right here that's a closet for the washer and dryer, and you're actually gonna have to shimmy in here to get past the sink. It's gonna be very difficult to walk this way. So we have to get a very, very tiny sink, and I'm talking like 9 inches by 10 inches so that you don't perpetually hit your hip when you're walking in and out. And that part kind of sucks. I wish we would have found that in the plans earlier. I wish my contractor would have called it out, but at the end of the day, once everything is permitted and designed, you really don't know how your final house is gonna be until you build it, so it is a little tough to plan for it. We're doing the best we can, and we think a small little sink is gonna fix that problem. Hopping into this bathroom, it's almost identical. A lot of similarities in the tile and the design. The really big distinguishing factor is the other one had a bathtub. This one's got a shower in it, and it's got kind of this really nice modern glass panel right here. Other than that, it is identical in the design. There will be other distinguishing factors. I mean, we're gonna have a bigger vanity here for one, which I think is super important. We're gonna have our mirror here, but behind the mirror here, we're actually gonna have wallpaper. We're gonna have wallpaper on this wall too. We're actually gonna have wallpaper in the other bathroom too, which is the same color palette, same designer. So it's gonna be very cohesive in that way, but it'll have a few little things in here that make this bathroom shine a little differently than the other. And that's a really quick overview of my small home. Now, it's not really quite as tiny as some of my other builds. It is a small home, right? I think if you want to live under the tiny home umbrella, you're looking at 500 square feet or less. Once you go from 500 to maybe about 900 square feet or 1,000, let's just say 500 to 1,000 square feet, that's where you're under that small home umbrella. And then anything more than that is just like a regular house. We did design it this small on purpose for a multitude of reasons. The main one being that even though my 400 square foot tiny house is super rad, I can only fit 4 people in there, meaning I can only make a certain amount of money. When it comes to making money on Airbnb, the #1 factor that determines revenue is what's called beds and heads. Meaning the more people that you can host in your house, the more you can charge for the total stay and the more money that you're gonna make on Airbnb. At the moment, I think I'm gonna do a video series on this house that details specific topics like how long did certain trades take? What did it cost to build this? What do we expect to make on Airbnb? A cost breakdown of this house, meaning how much did it cost to stucco? How much was the roof? How much was the flooring, materials, and everything in between? So if there's a specific video topic that you're interested in for this small house, let me know in the comments below. I'm always open to ideas. I always need them for the channel, and I'm always happy to answer questions. But for now, I know that I'm definitely gonna be doing an Airbnb deep dive on this house, and also my tiny house in a different video, and I'll give you a little preview of what that's gonna look like right now. I know I'm gonna be charging anywhere from $250 to $350 a night on this house, depending on seasonality, holidays, and weekends. One reason we can charge so much is that we're literally 5 minutes away from Joshua Tree National Park, which is a huge selling point. Also, it's a brand new construction, the decor is all brand new, and the views are awesome, so I'm pretty confident that we're gonna be making an average of $300 a night. Now let's talk about my revenue projections. I'm gonna give it to you in 3 different ways: the conservative route, the realistic route, and what I expect to make for myself personally, because I've been doing this for a while and I'm pretty confident that I'm gonna book this place. So conservatively speaking, if you did a so-so job with the interior design and the furnishings, and you were a middle of the road host, I think you could book this place for 200 nights. No, 20 nights. Now 20 nights times $300 a night is $6,000 a month. $6,000 a month times 12, $72,000 a year. When you factor in that your monthly mortgage is about $1,800, which equates to about $21,000 a year, you are roughly speaking making about $50,000 a year on Airbnb on this house itself, which is awesome, right? Now, of course, there are a few other costs along the way. You still have to pay for utilities, you still have to pay yourself back for the furnishings that you're putting in this place, yada yada. But conservatively speaking, $50,000 on option 1. Let's move on to the next tier, which I consider my realistic tier. This is more of a premium interior design and for the more experienced host, but I think 25 nights out of 30 nights is totally doable. 25 nights at $300 a night is $7,500 a month. That means that's $90,000 a year on this house. You subtract your mortgage and other expenses, roughly speaking, you have a profit of $70,000 a year on this house on my realistic track. Now let's move into the third category, which I personally think I'm gonna fall into, and I'll put it this way. I very rarely book at 25 nights a month. I am typically 100% occupied, but occasionally I do have 1 or 2 nights that I've missed, and that's just because I spend a lot of time babying my listing. I take professional photos and I spend the money to do that. I spend hours and hours and hours writing my listings, making sure that I have a lot of keywords and that my SEO's in there. I go into my Airbnb calendar every single day and make price adjustments to refresh my listing in the Airbnb SEO algorithm. I spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on the interior design and furniture of my places. I really consider my listings top tier and in the top 10% of Airbnb listings. And I don't say that to sound cocky or arrogant. I spend a lot of time and a lot of love making my Airbnb listings as good as they can because it's my passion. While I am used to a 100% occupancy rate at 30 and 31 nights a month, we'll walk it back to 28 nights a month so you can see what I'm planning on making on my worst month. 28 nights a month at $300 a night equates to $8,400 gross revenue every month. And by the way, I'm not just doing these calculations in my head. I am doing it on my phone off camera to look professional, which is all useless because I just said that. But 28 nights a month equates to $100,800 a year. Subtract your mortgage and other bills, you're looking at roughly $79,000 of profit a year. Now I do have a partner and I split everything 50-50 with him, but after we split our profits, we will each be walking away with about $40,000 each, which is just like, I mean, it's the most money that I will have made on a single Airbnb property ever. And you mix that with my other Airbnb profits and I'll finally after years of doing this, be making okay money. I always take the money that I make from Airbnb and reinvest it in other Airbnbs and other real estate projects. But it's nice to know that my hard work will finally pay off because I've put in at least 1,000 hours into this house and we're so close and it's been such a joy. I get to build neat things and it's a cool thing. I consider myself super lucky and I get a lot of good feedback from friends, family, and all of you in the YouTube world, and I appreciate that. So seriously, I'm here to help. If you have any any questions on how to get started on any of this, drop me a line down in the comments below and I will try to answer them all as quickly as I can. That's where I'll leave things today. Sorry if this was a really long video and if it was a little scatterbrained. This was actually a little bit of an impromptu shoot, but hopefully you learned something today. And for now, I guess I'll catch you on the next episode of Robuilt.